to incorporate 4 recipes in how to use bread that's not quite so fresh. The first one I came up with was making a bacon and cheddar crostini to float into a soup. Super easy. Got to start out with a loaf of Brea Bakery baguette, either sourdough, French, but this is the perfect shape because we want it to be crusty, but we don't want it to be too big. We want to be able to float it in our soup bowl. So take a loaf of Brea Bakery bread and cut it a little less than a ½ inch thick. So about that thick. And then with these slices, you need to brush it on both sides with olive oil. And then you want to toast it in the oven. Don't get it too hard and dry. I mean, it can be a little bit crispy because it's going to soak up the soup when it floats on top, but not so hard that it's really difficult to eat. So I brushed it with olive oil and then either toast it in a toaster, toast it in a toaster oven, toast it in an oven on a sheet pan at 350 degrees, toast it in a sandwich press, grill it. Many, many options. But the color that you want is one that's very lightly golden, like this. Now, what I always do with all of the bread that I toast is as soon as it's toasted, I take a clove of peeled garlic and I rub it over the surface of one side, and it really not only perfumes but makes a lovely, lovely garlic toast. And then what you want to have ready is some bacon that has been cooked and some cheddar, cheese that has been grated. So I've got my bacon already. I've got my toast, and you can rip it or you can cut it. I always like the look of a unfinished rip, so I'm a ripper rather than a cutter, but feel free to do what you want. You don't want to cover the surface of the bread because you always want to make sure that you see the bread underneath, and that's true with anything that I use bread as my anchor, is I never cover it completely. Always let the crust kind of poke out. And then I'm going to pile it with a mound of cheddar, or a sharp white cheddar cheese. And then with these, I would put it under a broiler or a very hot oven to melt the cheese on top. As soon as the cheese is melted on top, you want to sprinkle it with fresh minced chives and some coarse cracked black pepper. Just like that. We're going to roast our sweet 100 tomatoes. I'm going to roast them in the oven at a high temperature for about 15-ish minutes until they start to shrivel. They release some of their juices and they take on just a little bit of char. Super easy. Just cut the tomatoes through the core. The tomatoes can be yellow, red. Only criteria, they must be sweet. Line them up on the sheet pan, such as this. And I'm going to drizzle with just a touch of olive oil. I'm going to season them with a little kosher salt. And again, in the oven, 500 degrees, about 15 minutes. And when they're done, they should look like this. And I'll just fill my soup bowl, okay? So let's first take one of our croutons. I'm gonna float that on top. And I'm gonna put a couple beautiful little oven-dried tomatoes with that. Drizzle with a nice drizzle of olive oil. Sprinkle those tomatoes with a little finishing salt. And here is our first beautiful soup, tomato soup with a cheddar and bacon crostini and oven roasted tomatoes.